The cruiser's lights sliced through the dusk like a predator's eyes, pinning Dr. Aisha Carter's sedan to the cracked asphalt of Route 17. She sighed, already knowing this wasn't about a taillight. Aisha, a 38-year-old federal investigator, had driven this stretch of rural Virginia 100 times, but tonight felt different. The air was thick, humid, carrying the weight of a storm that hadn't yet broken. Her hands stayed steady on the wheel, but her pulse ticked up as the officer's silhouette loomed in her side mirror. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of swagger that screamed small-town power. She'd seen it before too many times. "Evening, ma'am," the officer drawled, his voice clipped, eyes hidden behind aviators despite the fading light. "You know why I pulled you over?" Aisha's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "I'm guessing it's not because you're a fan of my podcast on systemic bias." His jaw tightened, and he leaned closer, flashlight sweeping the interior of her car. "License and registration. Now." She complied, movements slow, deliberate.
No sudden moves.
She'd learned that lesson young, growing up in a neighborhood where cops saw her brothers as threats before they saw them as kids. The officer, his badge read J. Harlan, snatched the documents, his fingers brushing hers with a touch that felt too intentional. "Step out of the vehicle," he said, stepping back, hand resting on his holster. Aisha's stomach knotted, but her face stayed calm. "Mind telling me what this is about, Officer Harlan?" "Out. Now." His tone was a blade, sharp and cold. She opened the door, her heels clicking on the pavement as she stood, 5 feet 6 inches but carrying herself like she owned the road. The second officer, younger, hovered by the cruiser, his hand twitching near his gun. Aisha clocked him, instantly nervous, green, likely to follow Harlan's lead without question. "You're in a hurry, aren't you?" Harlan said, circling her like a shark. "Driving like you're running from something." "I'm a federal investigator," Aisha said evenly, locking eyes with him. "I'm on my way to Richmond for a case. If you've got a reason to detain me, say it." Harlan smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Federal investigator, huh? That's a new one. You got proof? Or is that just a story to get you out of a ticket?" Aisha's blood simmered, but she kept her voice steady. "Check my badge. Glove compartment, left side." He hesitated, then motioned to the younger officer, Officer Tate. By his Bajetto, retrieve it. Tate fumbled, pulling out a sleek leather wallet. He flipped it open, and the gold FBI badge gleamed under the cruiser's lights. His eyes widened, and he nearly dropped it. Sir," Tate stammered, holding it out to Harlan. Harlan's smirk vanished. He snatched the badge, turning it over like he could will it to be fake. "This doesn't mean anything," he said, but his voice cracked, betraying him. "Could be forged. You're still coming with us until we verify." Aisha's heart pounded, but she stepped closer, her voice low, unyielding. "You're making a mistake, officer. A big one." The air between them crackled, the tension thick enough to choke on. Harlan's hand tightened on his radio, his knuckles white. Tate shifted, unsure, his eyes darting between Aisha and his partner. This wasn't just a traffic stop. It was a power play, one Aisha had seen play out in courtrooms, precincts, and backroads like this one. She'd built her career exposing corruption cops, judges, politicians who thought they were untouchable. And now, standing on this empty road, she knew Harlan wasn't just fishing for a ticket. He was fishing for control. "Hands behind your back," Harlan barked, pulling out cuffs. Aisha didn't move. "You cuff me, you're done. Call it in. Verify my badge. Or you'll be explaining this to a federal judge by morning." Harlan's face reddened, his breath coming faster. "You don't tell me how to do my job." And you don't get to harass me because of what I look like, she shot back, her voice cutting through the humid air. You've got 10 seconds to make the right call or I'm calling my supervisor. And trust me, you don't want that. Tate froze, his hand hovering over his radio. Harlan's eyes narrowed, but doubt flickered there, a crack in his bravado. Aisha held his gaze, unblinking, her years of facing down liars in interrogation rooms giving her an edge. She wasn't just a driver on a lonely road, she was a force. And she knew it. The radio crackled, breaking the silence. Unit 12, what's your status? Harlan didn't answer immediately. His eyes flicked to the badge in his hand, then back to Aisha. For a moment, no one moved. The world held its breath. Unit 12, respond, the dispatcher repeated. Aisha tilted her head, her voice soft but lethal. Your move, officer. Harlan's jaw worked, his pride warring with the sinking realization that he was out of his depth. He stepped back, tossing the badge to Tate. Call it in, he muttered, his voice barely audible. Tate scrambled to comply, his fingers fumbling with the radio. Aisha stood tall, her eyes never leaving Harlan's. She'd won this round, but the fight was far from over. The dispatcher's voice came back, confirming her credentials. Dr. Aisha Carter, FBI. Active duty. Clear. Harlan's face twisted, a mix of rage and humiliation. He shoved the badge back at her. You're free to go. This time. Aisha took the badge, her fingers brushing the cool metal. There won't be a next time, she said, her voice a promise. She slid back into her car, her heart still racing, but her resolve ironclad. As she pulled away, the cruiser's lights fading in her rearview, Aisha's mind raced. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person who'd ever been pulled over for no reason, profiled, targeted, made to feel small. She'd spent years fighting systemic racism in the justice system, but tonight was personal. She drove on, the road stretching into the dark, her thoughts turning to her next move. Harlan and Tate didn't know it yet, but they'd just crossed the wrong woman. Aisha wasn't just an investigator, she was a reckoning. The next morning, Aisha sat in her Richmond hotel room, her laptop open, files spread across the desk. Her current Cassia corruption probe into a local sheriff's department had brought her to Virginia, but last night's stop had lit a fire in her. She'd already sent a report to her supervisor, detailing the incident with Harlan and Tate. But that wasn't enough. She needed to dig deeper. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen. A text from her brother, Marcus. You okay? Heard about last night. Aisha's fingers hovered over the keys. Marcus, a public defender in D.C., had always been her rock. They'd grown up in a world that tried to break them, but they'd fought back him in courtrooms, her in the field. She typed back, I'm fine, but they're not. She opened her laptop and pulled up the county's public records. Harlan's name popped up immediately. 6 years on the force. A handful of complaints, all dismissed. Tate was newer, barely a year in, but already tied to Harlan's hip. Aisha's instincts screamed that this wasn't their first questionable stop. She cross-referenced their patrol logs with local news reports. A pattern emerged. Traffic stops, mostly Black or Latino drivers, often late at night, often on quiet roads like Route 17. No arrests, no tickets, just warnings. Intimidation, plain and simple. Aisha leaned back, her mind racing. This wasn't just a bad cop with a chip on his shoulder. This was a system, one she'd spent her career dismantling. But systems didn't change without a fight, and she was ready to bring one. Her phone rang, pulling her from her thoughts. It was her supervisor, Agent Ruiz. Aisha, I got your report. You sure you want to push this? It's a small department, but they've got friends in high places. I'm sure, she said, her voice steady. They crossed a line, and I'm not the only one they've targeted.
Ruiz Said.
All right, I'm sending you backup. Agent Kessler's in the area. Meet him at the diner on Main Street, 2 p.m. Aisha nodded, though Ruiz couldn't see it. Thanks, boss. She hung up and glanced at the clock. 10 a.m. For hours to prepare. She pulled up her case files, her mind already mapping out the next steps. Harlan and Tate thought they could scare her off, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. The diner was a time capsule, checkered floors, vinyl booths, the smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease. Aisha slid into a corner booth, her eyes scanning the room. A few locals glanced her way, their stares lingering a beat too long. She was used to it. Agent Kessler arrived at 2 p.m. sharp, a wiry man in his late 40s with a salt and pepper beard and a no-nonsense vibe. He slid into the booth across from her, his eyes sharp. Carter, he said, nodding. Heard you stirred up some trouble. Trouble found me, she replied, sliding a folder across the table. Harlan and Tate. They're running a harassment racket on Route 17. I've got logs, complaints, and a hunch it goes higher. Kessler flipped through the folder, his brow furrowing. This is thin, Aisha. You've got patterns, but no hard evidence. You sure you want to take this on? I'm not here to play it safe, she said, leaning forward. These guys are banking on people like me backing down. I won't. Kessler studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, I'm in. But we need more than hunches. We need a witness, or better yet, a recording. Aisha's mind flashed to her dashcam. She'd installed it years ago, after too many routine stops. I've got footage, she said. It's not perfect, but it's enough to show Harlan's attitude. And I'm betting there's more out there. Kessler's eyes lit up. That's a start. Let's pull traffic cam footage, too. If they're targeting drivers, we'll find a pattern. They spent the next hour mapping out a plan. Cross-reference traffic stops, interview complainants, and dig into Harlan's connections. Aisha felt the familiar thrill of a case coming together, but the weight of last night still lingered. This wasn't just about justicite, it was about proving she belonged in a world that too often tried to push her out. By evening, Aisha and Kessler had tracked down a potential witness. Jamal Harris, a 24-year-old mechanic who'd been stopped by Harlan 3 times in the past year. They met him at a community center, a low brick building buzzing with kids playing basketball. Jamal was wary, his eyes darting to the door as they sat down. I don't want trouble, he said, his voice low. Harlan's got this town locked down. You cross him, you're done. Aisha leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. I know you're scared, Jamal. I was too last night. But if we don't speak up, he keeps winning. Jamal hesitated, then nodded. All right. He pulled me over last month, said I ran a stop sign. I didn't. He made me get out, patted me down, kept asking if I was carrying. Said he'd find something if I didn't cooperate. Aisha's jaw tightened. Did he? Nah, Jamal said. But he kept me there for an hour talking trash. Said I didn't belong here. Kessler scribbled notes, his face grim. We need you to go on record, Jamal. Your story could break this open. Jamal shook his head. Man, you don't get it. Harlan's not just a cop. He's got people. The sheriff, the mayor theory all tight. Aisha's heart sank, but she didn't let it show. Then we go bigger, she said. We take it federal. But we need you, Jamal. You're not alone in this. Jamal looked at her, his eyes searching. Finally, he nodded. All right, I'm in. That night, Aisha sat in her hotel room, the dashcam footage playing on her laptop. Harlan's voice filled the room. his words dripping with arrogance. She paused the video, his face frozen in a sneer. This was bigger than one bad stop, bigger than one bad cop. It was a system rotten to the core. She thought of her parents, who'd marched in the 60s, who'd taught her to stand tall no matter what. She thought of Marcus, fighting for clients who couldn't fight for themselves. And she thought of Jamal, scared but brave enough to speak. Aisha closed her laptop and stood, her reflection in the window sharp against the dark. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everyone who'd ever been made to feel less than. And she wouldn't stop until the truth came to light. Aisha woke to the buzz of her phone at 6 a.m., the screen glowing with a text from Kessler. Got something. Meet me at the diner 7 sharp. She dressed quickly, her mind already racing. The air outside was crisp, the early morning light painting the streets of Richmond in soft gold. But Aisha felt no warmth, only the weight of what lay ahead. At the diner, Kessler was already in their booth, a manila folder in hand and a grim look on his face. He slid the folder across the table as she Saturday traffic cam footage from Route 17. Past 6 months. 12 stops matching your description. Late night, minority drivers, no citations issued. Harlan's name is on 10 of them. Aisha's pulse quickened as she flipped through the grainy stills. Faces, mostly black and Latino, stared back, some angry, some resigned. This is a pattern, she said, her voice low. But we need more than pictures. We need to connect this to someone higher.
Kessler nodded.
That's where it gets messy. I dug into Harlan's file. He's got a cousin, Deputy Chief Warren, in the sheriff's department. Warren's been flagged for excessive force complaints, but they always get buried. Word is, he's got the sheriff's ear. Aisha's jaw tightened. So Harlan's not just a rogue cop. He's protected. Exactly, Kessler said, sipping his coffee. But there's a weak link. Tate. He's new, impressionable. If we can flip him, we might get the whole story. Aisha leaned back, her mind churning. Flipping Tate meant playing a dangerous game, trusting a man who'd stood by while Harlan tried to intimidate her. But if Tate was scared, if he was in over his head, he might talk. Let's find him, she said. Off duty. Somewhere he feels safe. Kessler grinned, a rare crack in his stoic demeanor. Already on it. He's at a bar on 5th Street most nights. I say we pay him a visit tonight. The bar was a dive. All neon signs and sticky floors, packed with locals nursing beers and grudges. Aisha and Kessler blended in as best they could, taking a table near the back. Tate was there, alone at the bar, his uniform traded for a faded hoodie. He looked younger without the badge, almost boyish, but his eyes were heavy with something, guilt, maybe, or fear. Aisha approached first, sliding onto the stool beside him. Officer Tate, she said, her voice calm but firm. We need to talk. Tate's head snapped up, his beer nearly spilling. You, he said, recognition dawning. What the hell do you want? I want the truth, Aisha said, leaning closer. About Harlan. About Route 17. About why you let him pull me over for nothing. Tate's eyes darted to the door, then back to her. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb, Kessler cut in, joining them. We've got footage. 12 stops, same MO. You're on half of them. You want to go down with Harlan? Or you want a way out? Tate's hands shook as he set his beer down. You don't get it. Harlan's not the problem. It's bigger than him. Then tell us, Aisha said, her voice softening. You're not like him, Tate. I saw it that night. You didn't want to be there. Tate stared at his hands, his breath uneven. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, quietly, it's Warren, Harlan's cousin. He tells us who to stop, when to push. Says it's about keeping order. But it's not. It's about power. Aisha's heart pounded. And the sheriff? Tate nodded, barely perceptible. He knows. Looks the other way. Kessler exchanged a look with Aisha. This was a thread they needed to unravel the whole operation. We need you to testify, Aisha said. Go on record. We'll protect you. Tate laughed. A bitter sound. Protect me? You think Warren won't find out? Or Harlan? They'll bury me. Not if we move fast, Kessler said. We're building a case, Tate. Federal. You help us, you walk away clean. Tate's eyes searched Aisha's, desperate for something reassurance. Maybe, or proof he could trust her. She held his gaze, her voice steady. I know what it's like to be scared, she said. But staying silent won't save you. It'll only make you complicit. Tate swallowed hard, then nodded. All right, but I want immunity. And I don't talk until you've got Warren. Deal, Kessler said, sliding a card across the bar. Call me tomorrow. We'll set it up. As they left the bar, Aisha felt a flicker of hope, but it was tempered by dread. Tate was their shot, but he was also a risk. If he got cold feet or if Harlan got wind of this, things could go south fast. The next day, Aisha and Kessler met with Agent Ruiz in a secure office in Richmond. Ruiz, a no-nonsense woman with 20 years in the bureau, listened as they laid out the case. Harlan's stops, Warren's influence, the sheriff's complicity. Tate's potential testimony was the linchpin, but they needed more evidence to tie it all together. We've got a wiretap request in for Warren's phone, Ruiz said, her eyes sharp. If Tate's telling the truth, we'll catch him giving orders. But we need to move carefully. This town's a powder keg, and you're lighting a match. Aisha nodded, undeterred. We've got Jamal Harris on board, too. He's willing to testify about his stops. And I'm pulling more complainants. This isn't just about mites, about everyone they've targeted. Ruiz studied her, a faint smile breaking through. You're relentless, Carter. All right, I'm giving you 48 hours to lock this down. After that, we go to the U.S. Attorney. As they left, Kessler clapped Aisha on the shoulder. You're making enemies, you know. Warren's got pull. Let him try, Aisha said, her voice steel.
Ive faced verse.
Over the next 2 days, Aisha worked around the clock. She interviewed 3 more drivers with stories like Jamal's humiliating stops, veiled threats, no paper trail. She cross-referenced their accounts with traffic cam footage, building a timeline that showed Harlan's pattern wasn't random. Kessler, meanwhile, worked Tate, coaching him for his statement and ensuring he didn't bolt. On the second night, the wiretap paid off. Warren's voice, gruff and impatient, came through clear. Harlan, you and Tate hit Route 17 again. Got a tip on a dealer. Black guy, red sedan. Make it quick. The dealer was a Ficciano. Arrest followed. Just another stop. Another power play. Aisha listened to the recording in Ruiz's office, her fists clenched. That's it, she said. We've got him. Ruiz nodded. We move tomorrow. Arrest warrants for Harlan and Warren. Tate's immunity deal is in place. You ready for this, Carter? Aisha met her gaze, unflinching. I've been ready my whole life. The arrests went down at dawn. Aisha watched from an unmarked car as FBI agents swarmed the sheriff's department. Harlan was dragged out in cuffs, his face a mask of rage. Warren followed, shouting about his rights, but his bluster couldn't save him. Tate, pale and silent, was escorted separately, his deal keeping him out of cuffs for now. The town erupted. Locals gathered outside the station, some cheering, others jeering. Aisha saw Jamal in the crowd, his face a mix of relief and disbelief. She caught his eye and nodded, a silent promise. We did this. But the victory was bittersweet. The sheriff, claiming ignorance, avoided charges for now. Aisha knew he'd skate unless more evidence surfaced. And the community was divided, some hailing her as a hero, others painting her as a traitor who'd betrayed law enforcement. That night, Aisha sat in her hotel room, the weight of it all pressing down. Her phone buzzed. Marcus, checking in. "You okay, sis?" he asked when she answered. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice raw. "We got them, but it doesn't feel like enough." "It never does," Marcus said. "But you're changing things, Aisha. One fight at a time." She hung up, staring at the dashcam footage still open on her laptop. Harlan's sneer, Tate's hesitation, her own steady voice cutting through the tension. This was her life standing in the fire, refusing to burn. The case made national news. Aisha's name was everywhere, her face plastered on cable networks. Some called her a crusader, others a troublemaker. She ignored it all, focusing on the next step, testifying before a grand jury. Warren and Harlan faced federal charges: civil rights violations, abuse of power. Tate's testimony sealed their fate, though he'd never wear a badge again. Aisha returned to Route 17 one last time before leaving Virginia. The road was quiet, the signpost from that night still standing, its handwritten note faded but legible. "Justice demands truth." She traced the words with her finger, her heart heavy but resolute. This wasn't the end. There were more Harlans, more Warrens, more systems to dismantle. But there were also more Jamals, more Tates willing to break ranks, more people ready to stand up. Aisha got back in her car, the badge in her pocket a reminder of why she fought. She drove into the dawn, the road ahead long but clear. Justice wasn't a destination, it was a journey, and she'd walk it every day. What would you do if you were Aisha, facing a system built to break you? Share your thoughts. Where does justice begin, and who decides what's right?